Finally, I just stabbed somebody with an ice pick. I can't stop myself. I keep killing somebody.
Paul Michael Stefani, also known as the Weepy Voiced Killer, was active between 1980 and 1982 in Minnesota. He was convicted in 5 cases of homicide. His modus operandi was anonymously reporting his crimes in a weepy voice, thus earning him the nickname Weepy Voiced Killer. Medical professional Andrew Chacko shares his perspective on this case.
So Stephanie's mentality was severely flawed, to say the least. From when he did his murders, stabbing people upwards of 60 times. Hard to say where all that kind of came from. And all of those actions kind of had small little tidbits of other common mental disorders, kind of like schizophrenia, elements of bipolar. However, to meet the diagnostic criteria, it misses quite a few other things. For schizophrenia, for example, normally you suffer from dementia and delirium, which normally means that you don't know what's real and what's not. And he did have that, however, he did have the cognizant ability to know that what he was doing is wrong post the fact. He also had some elements of dissociative identity disorder, which could be argued in some case that the way when he was killing people was acting under a different pseudonym or some sort of other part of him, if you will. However, again, it's very difficult to diagnose with only a small clip of what he did and who he has actually harmed. But if you gather more information, you can make a more accurate depiction of what his mentality was. A couple things notable, I guess, for this case is that he would be probably one of the few mass murderers who actually would call people post the fact. Most murderers wouldn't do that because they already understand what they're doing is wrong, but don't really have that little voice, if you will, or conscience to report what they did was wrong. And however, this weepy voice killer thought that was the best next choice to do it. So it was interesting to see that come into play, which kind of leads to the weird aspect of psychopathic killers, which is kind of a misnomer. There really is no such thing as a psychopathic killer. Each person has their own sort of underlying disorder that kind of leads to them. No one's really truly psychopathic, if you will. What makes that aspect in this case more notable to me is that his actions and his pride and his details points to his manipulative nature, which kind of feels like he's feigning the empathy that he has when he calls the police, most likely as a coping mechanism after the fact of his murders. Hard to say where that kind of comes from. Obviously, his trauma in his past is the most common reason why people kind of lean into these kind of personality disorders or how they manifest. His manipulative nature is probably one of the most interesting parts about the weepy voice killer.
And if this happened today, it would be a little different now that mental health at least is not quite as a faux pas or a taboo, if you will, to be discussed as opposed to back then where a lot of it was shoved under the table and not really discussed at all.
Don't talk, just listen. I'm sorry what I did to Compton. I couldn't help it. Don't know why I had to stab her. I am so upset about it. I keep getting drunk every night. I can't believe it. It's just like a big dream.
You can hear it sounds like genuine remorse when he's talking. It kind of stands to reason that he does have some sort of actual moral compass to him, despite him doing these heinous acts. He still actually does have some sort of humanity, even though a lot of it's skewed in. But like a lot of his actions seem like something called ego dystonic. He'll do stuff that doesn't seem in a line of what he believes in, but he'll do it anyway, just because that's what his desires are. But hard to say why that all happens.